Well, welcome to Wine Guides TV, the first incarnation of our video reviews. Dan Sims.
Ben Edwards.
Thank you very much. Today we are jumping into the Bledisloe Showdown.
Yeah, well, considering they're beatings in the rugby, thought we might as well have a little bit of a review on some Australian versus New Zealand one. Hopefully, maybe we'll actually get them for once.
Do you reckon we're a chance?
I reckon we're a good chance today.
Okay, very good. And why is that?
Well, we've got no shots on goal, so it's just all about what's in the glass at the moment. So let's maybe leave that one right there.
Where it is.
Where it is.
Okay, terrific. We do have 4 wines, you can see them. We've got 2 from Australia and 2 from New Zealand, and we're also going to different places and different price points. So we get to explore the idea of value and then the whole premium philosophy. So sometimes you get quite an interesting mix in there.
And also Chardonnay. I mean, Chardonnay, as we know from our previous episodes that we've done, we're all about Chardonnay. Chardonnay is the evolution of style that is happening in Australia. It's been phenomenal, producing some of the best examples of Chardonnay outside of Burgundy. And
no doubt about it. And of course, we're members of the ABC Club, the Always Buy Chardonnay Club. Isn't that right, Dan?
Not the Anything But Chardonnay Club, but the Always Buy Chardonnay Club.
And that Anything But Chardonnay ABC Club philosophy is a bit outdated because Australian Chardonnay these days and New Zealand Chardonnay is really refreshing, tight, linear and food friendly, which they stopped being when they became fat, blousy, over the top. So
Dolly Parton wines, as I like to say.
Dolly Parton wines. It's all out there for us to see, maybe even enjoy. Okay. So we're going to start with Darling Park. Now, Darling Park is a producer down on the Mornington Peninsula. Judy Gifford is down there doing a great job. You can see it's all about art down there, very arty. But what they do make is incredibly good value Chardonnay. This particular wine has lots of the white nectarine, quite linear acidity, juicy on the finish though, and so it's quite generous. And I'm surprised by how good this one is, given the fact that its price point is pretty reasonable. I'm just going to have a taste. Why don't you keep on?
Well, I think Mornington Peninsula is a region. I mean, it's really hanging its hat on, say, Pinot Noir, but also Chardonnay coming through. There's some really great examples, that are there on the ground as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I think because they've done the Pinot Noir thing, they sort of didn't get their heads around Chardonnay. But I think there's some great Chardonnays coming in. And this is a great example. I reckon 92 points, beautifully fine, really lovely florals, white fruits, bit of grilled nuts perhaps, but really lovely. Will not fail to satisfy any time you drink it. Okay, now heading over the Tasman, we're going to the Kumeu River, the village, the Chardonnay. Okay, this is made by Michael Brakovich, bit of a guru, master of wine. He's all about it. Very fastidious, very tall man, especially compared to me, which I'm not saying that much really, is it? But more about the wine. He produces this really lovely sort of dry, fresh style of Chardonnay. Okay, this is just their entry level. It's all about being, approachable, vibrant, easy to drink, and also get a nice little bit of funk to it as well, which I quite like. Yeah, definitely. He's building. It's about the winemaker, and as an MW, you'd expect him to be able to build in complexity, and it's a winemaker's grape variety. But with this particular wine, it's all about stripping it back to its bare bones, and it's got lovely sort of savoury acidity.
Savoury acidity. I think around that sort of 91 point mark. It's a good, easy drinking, great approachable style, and again for the price point, excellent value.
Yeah. Now, both of those wines are 13% alcohol. Chardonnays used to be getting up into that 14.5%, 15% now. We're getting much more elegance in them. And speaking of elegance and power, we're going to move to the Yarra Valley.
Well, with 2009, I mean, there was a pretty horrific, I suppose, bushfire vintage in the Yarra Valley throughout the whole area. There's been huge issue and talk about smoke taint in that region, mainly with some of the reds. But here we have a white wine from 2009 vintage. And speaking with Dave Bicknell, who is really a guru when it comes to Australian Chardonnay, producing some really exciting styles of wine. He's 864.
Do you think it's fair to say that he's pretty excited about it?
He's pretty excited about it. And considering this is from that sort of smoke tainted, apparent smoke tainted vintage.
Well, the reality is that a lot of this fruit from the upper Yarra area, where this fruit is from, it wasn't such a problem. But the Chardonnay's come in a lot earlier, and so they've trapped all this flavour in, and it's incredibly tightly wound, incredibly complex. And one of the things when we talk about the quality of wine is how long it goes on the palate. And linear acidity is something we talk about. Oak Ridge has it in spades. 96 points, maybe even 97. This is as good an example of Australian Chardonnay as you're going to get. And for the price, I think it's brilliant.
I mean, considering that's so tightly wound, and you're looking at it right now, it's such a little baby, but gee, the longevity, and we talk about aging potential of such a wine like that. Gee, that's look at it like 5 years ago, you'd never see, say you'd probably put that away for 10 years and still look incredibly fresh.
That will age beautifully for 5 to 10 years. So that's amazing for Australian Chardonnay. In fact, that's amazing for Chardonnay no matter where it comes from in the world. Now, the last one we're going to go to is one of my favourite Pinot Noir producers, Felton Road. Very famous for those wines. Central Otago not quite sure that they're there with Chardonnay. You know, they still get these really ripe 14 and this is 14.5, maybe a tiny bit more, 14.5% alcohol, but it's got real depth. But there's something about it that's just a little bit bitter and over the top and not quite...
It's big, isn't it?
Yeah, it's big and not ultimately satisfying. The others have all got this lightness of touch. This one's just a bit big and broiling. Now, people do like that style, and I understand that. But for me, it's just lacking the finesse of really, really top quality Chardonnay. So I've got to point it down a little bit here, and I'd probably be aiming around that 88 points. Now, that may be a bit contentious, but I don't really care because I'd much rather see people drink these first three wines than that wine. And, you know, on the back of that, they could even lose the Bledisloe showdown. Maybe they lose by a point, just like we did in the actual Bledisloe Cup.
Well, on that point, 1 point.
On that 1 point, indeed.
This one, we're going to give this one to Australia, but we'll see you next time for another episode.
Indeed.
Cheers.